So the book is called Co-Intelligence, Living and Working with AI.
Now the quote we put in there, which I quite liked, was treat it like a junior, but a very fast one.
And of late, it's the last couple of 6 to 12 months talking more about AI teammate.
Delay is a strategic error and early learning compounds.
Yeah, it's almost, I suppose, the jagged frontier of the technology also applies to our understanding of it as well.
So I hear you got a letter and a little parcel.
A little parcel.
Recently.
Did, yeah.
There's a little gift in the post.
A little gift in the post.
It's nice to get something by post these days, isn't it?
It is.
But yes, something from someone quite senior.
Someone quite senior in HubSpot. Yeah, I got a gift from Yamini, who's the chief exec of HubSpot.
Really? She sent you a little belated Christmas gift. I didn't know
It
you were on.
It was a Happy New Year gift. I think
right?
Probably just to me, because there's a little note. Well, us,
little note in it.
There's a little note in it with a Happy New Year and.
Nice. Well, thank you very much, Yamini, if you're listening.
So
I didn't realise you were on sort of speaking terms with the chief exec of a multi-billion organisation.
The circles I move in.
Well, I did know that you. Yeah, I should have realised.
So, but no, it's all around living and working with AI.
Well, I can see why she would have sent us a book like
clearly,
that.
maybe
we're the thought leaders in this area.
Or we need some education.
Well, I was taking the positive.
Either way, but we thought, why not do the book review?
The book review, okay,
of the book.
The book review of the book. Well, that's how book reviews work. All right. Well, we'll do that in today's podcast then, shall we?
Let's do that.
Give it a go. Hello and welcome to another episode of the SME Growth Podcast from Wellmeadow, where every week we try and come up with something useful or interesting for owners and managers of SME businesses. And with me this week is Richard. No surprise for regular listeners.
Hello.
We don't have a guest this week. What episode number are we on?
I believe this is 158.
158. Wow. They just sort of trip off the production line now, don't they, these days?
Yeah.
Have you got any idea what we did last week?
Meg has written a little note for me.
She's brilliant, isn't she? Go on.
So 157 was company vision in the age of AI.
That was interesting. Yeah, we did that last week. I remember that one.
And then before that, you had a guest in, 156. Christine.
Yeah, Christy, that was really interesting. The psychology of business generally. She was an organisational psychologist, but we decided to talk a bit about the psychology of meetings, which I found very interesting. It allowed us to reflect a bit as well. So that was good.
And then 155, which was, do you really have a great business idea? So a cautionary tale for people.
Cautionary tale. That was your idea, because it's New Year. People are thinking new beginnings, new startups, and let's just support the people that want to do that, but with a few maybe poignant questions to ask before you jump straight in with your passion.
Match your zeal with your caution.
Very good. You didn't say that. That would have been a good soundbite.
That would have been a good soundbite, yeah.
There you go. Good. So that brings us to 158 then. So as we said in our little intro there, we've been sent a book by the chief exec of HubSpot. Thank you, Yamini. And it very much lands in an area of our interest. So we thought we'd do a bit of a review of it.
Yep, and I think it marks as probably people who maybe have had if they're listening and have had a conversation with us about HubSpot and their journey with their kind of the messaging as we see it over the years, started as an marketing automation platform. Mm-hmm. Last probably 5 or so years, talked very much about becoming a platform for everything.
Customer platform
and all of that, to run your whole business through it. And of late, it's the last couple of 6 to 12 months talking more about AI teammate. And I think we're all using the AI in HubSpot more and more.
Yeah, we're jumping both feet. That assistant thing I think it's more powerful than even some of the people it's more powerful.
Yeah, I think it can do things that probably...
It has access to all areas within HubSpot, of course, but also the web as well and everything. Very, very powerful.
And so it's very much is becoming that AI teammate. So there's a book.
Now, this book I noticed was written by Ethan Mollick, and I'm wondering, have you been following him for a long time, such that you were even able to name your son after him?
But no,
not the Mollick.
That's not.
This is the second Ethan in your life.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if he's really in my life. I've no.
Well, he's just barged in by being sent. Yeah. His words have been sent.
His words have been. Yes.
So we haven't said yet what the book's called. So why don't you give it a little bit of a check?
So the book is called Co-Intelligence: Living and Working with AI. So should I hold it up?
You can hold it up to the camera.
There we go.
There you go. Look at the way you do that. It's almost like you've been on QVC or something.
It is a bit, isn't it?
One of these. Co-intelligence, living and working with AI, Ethan Mollick. So a good little hardback. Now, as regular listeners will know, we've referred to books many times, but we don't tend to do book reviews, and we don't want this to suddenly trigger a flood of people sending us their books to say, please review this one. It's not a book review channel. But this one does trigger lots of topics that would relate to what we would talk about anyway. So it seems like a good enough idea to use as a hook, if nothing else, to talk about these things.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that people are worried about, concerned about with AI is, will it replace my job?
Yeah.
And I think what Ethan Mollick is trying to do is perhaps reframe it in this book and say, what if it becomes a really valuable co-worker, teammate type of thing, which ties into the whole HubSpot.
Works with you, not instead of you. Yeah, and that's the framing of it, isn't it? I suppose that's the co-intelligence part of the title. And he says, we're just in a new phase of work. People have got to learn differently. And it's different from other tools that have come along before, like calculators or spreadsheets or email. This isn't just another thing that you use relatively passively. And you need to think differently about it, which is what
it's those he talks about in the lifetime, these kind of advances of life, once in a lifetime technologies like steam engines or internet, that type of thing that start to change. This is one of those. Now, regular listeners will know my views on this, that I think that this is different to all of those. And that
it's seismic in like the others were, but you think just so much more seismic that we're not going to be able to keep up as well as we have in the past. Yeah.
And I would say that I'm probably having something of an existential crisis with AI.
I know you have, and I'm worried about you about this. I wonder though, if you'd been alive when the steam engine,
I'd have been a Luddite.
Well, but you see, the Luddites, interestingly, I was reading up on them. They didn't object to the introduction of the new weaving looms. They objected who owned the new weaving looms because they put the control in the hands of the capital owners rather than the workers. So it wasn't the fact that it was faster, leaner, meaner. But if you'd been around at the invention of the steam engine and the sudden displacement of, all those canal towpath workers that suddenly were out of work because the trains are doing it, or, horses being replaced and all this stuff, then I think you would have had similarly existential worries at the time. And that worry would have lasted your whole life because the pace of change then was so slow. When we mechanised agriculture or we put mass production in, or
maybe it's because
came along.
Deep down, I'm a people person.
If that doesn't make the soundbite for today's episode,
I think I am.
Deep down, Richard, you're a people person.
I'm a people person.
How deep are we talking?
Well,
it's a deeply held view, but it's deep down.
It's deep down, yeah. It may not come across.
As everybody in the office who, when they listen to this, will know when they're listening to the episode because they'll be start laughing as well. But you're such a people person.
I am.
Back to the book.
But back to the book. So yeah, so it's all about kind of living and working with AI. So
I think the point I picked up on it, it's not about tools. This book it's not listing a load of tools. And thank goodness, really, because it was published in 2024. And I think anybody who decides to write a book on AI is really a hostage to fortune, because by the time it's published, they're out of date, aren't they? But it's about how the world of work is changing and how we've got to change our views about how to use it, rather than recommending tool X or tool Y. That's where it came from.
And I mean, there's loads of stuff you could go through in this, but he sort of treats it a little bit like it's like an alien technology almost, and we've got to start aligning. And there's a whole piece around like what's the ethics in that, how does that all work, and that would probably be about a podcast series in and of itself.
Oh, yeah, imagine. But he does acknowledge that it isn't able to do a lot of things at the moment, and that's why this co-intelligence bit is saying humans are definitely still better at some elements of this, and will be for some time. You mentioned ethics. He also mentions judgment, context, strategy, responsibility, all those things. So leave those in the realm of the human. Don't delegate that stuff because it's just no good at it. But instead, accept what it is good at. So it's fast, definitely. It can do pattern recognition. It's good at drafting and exploring different ideas and just first pass thinking. And all
one of the things that he touches on in the book is that there was this almost presupposition that AI, if you look back at the old sort of sci-fi thing, that AI would be very good at the maths, the engineering, the problem solving, but actually there's been quite a bit of the maths that gets wrong, but actually the creativity side is where it sort of excels in many ways. which is a little bit
Well, sometimes
counterintuitive.
even human creative people get stuff wrong, right? The whole point, if any students of De Bono out there, and I followed him from a very early age, Maltese professor who invented brainstorming. And he said the whole point is you've got to come up with stupid ideas to get to the good ones. And that's what it's very good at doing. It comes up with some stupid ideas. But you need a human to recognise when they're stupid. Now, the quote we put in there, which I quite liked, was treat it like a junior, but a very fast one. So imagine if you took on a graduate, you wouldn't trust them to make the full judgments that require experience, but they're at least doing some stuff. Now imagine you took on 100 graduates or 1,000 graduates. They get through a lot of stuff, right? They'd be very fast at making mistakes, maybe. But that's what the whole big accountancy firms and consultancy firms, their model has been based on.
Yeah.
Which is why they're not recruiting them anymore.
Yeah.
But imagine it's like that you've got 1,000 graduates available, just sat there waiting for an instruction. And as soon as you ask them a question, between them, they come up with the answer in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's not going to be as well-rounded and thought through as you would do, but it's flipping fast.
Well, he talks about that in the book, where he talks about the experiment, which I'm sure we've touched on this before, because I think it was in a Harvard Business Review article around the Boston Consulting Group, when they did a sort of control study on consultants using AI and consultants without using AI. Well, they gave them 18 different tests to do, and what they found was that the ones that used AI did it a lot better, but what they actually saw was happening was, rather than actually think through the problem, they were just taking the question and dumping it into the AI to actually do the test. So it's there's an awful lot, and they're actually saying, like you say, this will just replace that work of more junior people.
And it's not
researchers.
And the people who are going to win with this aren't those that occasionally use AI, dip in and out, and use it every now and again to help write an email. These are those that the winners will be the people who rethink how they work and where AI can fit in. Yeah. But with the guardrails of being human supervised, the human in the loop. Good. Now, he comes up with this concept of the jagged frontier. You read all about the jagged frontier. It's an interesting concept to just realise that it's not the same as other technological advances. It's not as incremental and linear. Yeah. It's very, very uneven.
And I think some of this is, he sort of links into what tasks we're using AI to do.
Yeah. Because he says that some areas it's absolutely brilliant, and yet something else which is maybe quite closely related to it is absolutely awful. Yeah. It really is terrible. And who was that? We had a guest on, didn't we, that talked about the fact it's a bit like having a drunk employee that turns up, but they know an awful lot of stuff. So you've just got to be aware that it's not going to be good at everything, but the things that it's suddenly bad at, suddenly get very good at, and then something else overtakes it. So this is the idea of this jagged frontier. It's changing in a very non-linear way, hard to predict.
He says we need to be conscious of the tasks we're giving AI, so as to take advantage of its strengths and weaknesses. And I suppose part of that, and part of what he talks about in the book as well, is the experimentation with it. You've almost got to be using it to identify where those strengths and weaknesses are.
Yeah, he's quite big on that, isn't he? Because he says you can't think about it logically. Yeah. You can't just say, I think, given what I know about AI, it might be good at this. You've got to just say, it might be good at everything. It might be rubbish at everything. Let's try it. And you'll be surprised, because in some areas, it's even better than your wildest dreams thought. And then in others, it's a complete waste of time.
And I think as well, some of that jagged frontier probably comes down to that human interaction with it on prompting. Yeah. So if you give it, and again, maybe that ties into the more, or the less experienced workers. If you were giving someone a task who didn't really understand the subject area or was new in the role, you would have to be quite prescriptive with it and say, this is the inputs, this is how I want you to solve it, these are the outputs. And I think too often with AI, we're giving it just junk commands. I want to learn about this.
Tell me about X. Isn't the same as, adopt the persona of an expert in the subject of such and such, and using such and such a framework or references to this, and bearing in mind what we've asked you before, now tell me about this. That's a very different prompt, and you learn that, don't you? Yeah. We learned that, one of the, I didn't want to spend too much time talking about the use cases we've got, but in HubSpot, this assistant that we referred to earlier on, we use it to rank or rate all of our customers' sentiment with us at the moment. And it's very good at it, because it's got access to all emails, all the meeting notes, all the call notes, anything that we've written about them. So it can give us a score out of 10 every month that we run it to say, how are they doing out of 10? What's the sentiment? And give me 3 highlights and 3 lowlights. The problem is, so it's brilliant at that. Then you go and put that into one of the automation areas with it and try and get it to run automatically. And it gives everybody a score of 7 and hallucinates on the highlights and lowlights. Yeah. You think, well, it's the same blinking tool, cheek by jowl. I've got this brilliant answer that is game-changing for my business. Yeah. And then in the other half, if I just apply it using a different area of the system, it falls over. Now, there's no way you would have been able to rationally predict that. You just got to try it. And that's absolutely the point he's making.
Yeah.
Try these various different things, knowing that whatever we've got here, it's only going to get better.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the points he makes. Because one of the quotes, he said, this will be the worst AI you'll ever use.
Yeah. It's not going to get worse.
To that effect.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know about that. I'm just
That's his rule 4. He came up with 4 rules or thereabouts, didn't he? And that's one of them.
I'll pick that point up when we get to that point. Otherwise, I'll derail the entire thing.
Go out of sequence and you're going to give listeners now the impression that this is planned in some way, which will be very misleading.
But he talks about as well on the Jagged Frontier thing, how do we know? He treats it like an alien, really, like super intelligence. Mm-hmm. And how do we know this alien is friendly?
How do you know? How do you know a human is friendly?
Well, and that comes back to who's making this stuff, isn't it, as well? So there's a whole...
What are their intentions?
And he talks about that on page 26
conspiracy
somewhere.
Theories abound.
Well, I don't know if it's conspiracy theories. They're quite open about it. Where he talks about, some of these people, they're true believers that creating a super intelligence is the most important task for humanity with boundless upside.
Who believes that?
The Sam Altmans of this world, and that's one of their
boundless upside.
Boundless upsides. So,
but boundless risks as well if misused, right? I mean, the creators of this stuff are interested in the tool and what the tool can do. They're trying to put some thoughts into how we put guardrails around it, and they do, But as we could see with Grok recently, and the trouble that Musk has got in from that, if you're not keen to put the guardrails in because you want a very open version, then it can be used definitely for bad things. To the point where Grok has almost got banned in the UK for it, and I think they'll probably climb back on it. But
so we're for the theologically minded, I would say reference Genesis 11.
And for the non-theological,
that would be the Tower of Babel, where we're trying to create something. We're trying to make our own super intelligence here,
right?
Which is that's a whole other podcast.
Gosh,
it's probably a whole other podcast actually, not even another episode.
Show rather than just another episode.
But yeah. So I think there's an awful lot of big ramifications. And interestingly, just I would say as well, the cover of the book, Taking the Apple Off the Tree.
Oh.
There's a motif, there's an Edenic motif there, I would say.
That's triggering, isn't it?
Well,
talking about eugenesis.
There we go. I've just done a whole study on that.
Right, back to the book.
Back to the book.
And not just one cover with the apple being plucked from the tree.
This book, Co-Intelligence, yeah.
Yes, not the book, capital T, capital B.
So he talks about this Jagged Frontier, that it's not evenly, like say, it's just a non-linear experience working with AI.
Yeah.
So then he says, right, okay, but we're kind of in the zone now where we've got AI.
Yeah.
It's
can't uninvent it.
We can't uninvent it. We've got
the
steam wagon. So how do we work with it?
Mm. So he said, and this is part of his sort of rules about it, always bring it to the table. Mm. Now, wait for rule 2, but always bring it to the table. Allow it to have a go at nearly everything with guardrails around it. That's part of it, is experiment broadly sort of thing, isn't it? See where it can help you. And don't think of it as only being good at the sort of tasks that you, in your mind, have got as a predetermined idea of what AI would be good at. Write me an email or analyze this spreadsheet.
Yeah, it's almost, I suppose, the Jagged Frontier of the technology also applies to our understanding of it as well, doesn't it?
But why not ask it questions you would ask another person and see how well it does, knowing that if it will come up with rubbish sometimes, but you don't dismiss the whole tool or indeed the whole of AI as an idea because that question didn't get answered very well. So ask it, what should be my strategy? Give it a bit of feedback, tell it a bit about your business and say, what would you do? Yeah. And it'll come up with an answer. That answer may be perfect out of the box. It might be completely rubbish and you turn your computer off. Or it might just trigger a thought. So, well, that isn't quite right, is it? Because, and it's your because, which is the right answer.
Yeah. So he says, as you experiment, you may find that AI can help you AI help can be satisfying or frustrating or useless or unnerving, but you aren't just doing this for the help alone. Familiarizing yourself with AI's capabilities allows you to better understand how it can assist you or threaten you in your job. Yeah. So there's a kind of two-edge.
And we've got examples of this where we've tried stuff, right? We use it, once again, back to the Breeze Assistant example within HubSpot. We get it to review all of the meeting notes, emails, whatever we talked about before, but it will highlight for us where the key pain points are and how they map across to our solutions, and that gets automatically integrated into our proposals. Yeah. Now that is fantastic. However, it will come up with some things sometimes that you don't agree with, but importantly, it also comes up with some things you would have missed. Yeah. But it's picked up. Maybe in the very first meeting you had with a client, they mentioned something absolutely golden, which of course, because we have a recency bias as humans, you tend to put more weight on the things that happened in the later meetings.
Yeah.
But it won't have that bias. So suddenly you see it's put as number one pain point, something that was a throwaway comment maybe that you can really fix quickly. So it can be extraordinarily
useful. And I think
useful.
the marginal cost as well of bringing AI into these conversations is pretty much zero, isn't it? Because if it's there, so like from a HubSpot point of view,
it's included.
It's included, so you can
don't
say
pay credits for it, or once you got it, I think it's even available at free tier. Is it? I think
so.
they've gated it at all.
So I was talking to a sales team this week and doing some AI more exploring, should we say? Frontier. Use our frontier language. We're pushing the back, pioneering.
Well,
I don't know. You have to ask them. but just saying, you can get a prompt now. I was experimenting with this prompt. Say, right, here's a deal that I'm stuck on.
Yeah.
Find me other deals that are like this, size, company type, etc., sector, blah blah blah, and give me highlights from those as to what got that over the line, and then. So that comes up with a whole load of stuff. Thought, wow, this is pretty useful. If you're having a sales meeting conversation, I'm stuck on this deal. What could we do? Now I said to him, look, I have zero context really here as to whether these are any good, but you guys do.
Yeah.
So you still have to have that. You still have to have that context and everything. But look how quickly we've got something here that we can at least have a conversation about.
Yeah, we're talking about the really important stuff.
And rather than that whole classic kind of, we've got a question in a board meeting about something or a sales meeting. I'll tell you what, I'll take that offline and go and find out about it.
Do it now.
We'll do it now because we can have a conversation with it.
Yeah.
So that brings us on to this next
Sorry, just to interrupt on that point. I was in a board meeting when someone, can you go away and develop a report that does X, Y, and Z? I said, well, let's not bother. Let's just ask the assistant now.
Yeah.
When was the last time that this happened? Or I was in one where I think they said some of our people are giving discounts for quicker deliveries, but we haven't put a policy in place. So I wonder what everybody's doing. I said, right, stop there. I'll ask it.
Yeah.
And it produced a little table for me of all the different discounts that have been offered for how much of an advance, who'd given what, and it gave me a little summary of it. It was phenomenally powerful.
Yeah. So, but I suppose so. In rule 1, invite AI to the table. Rule 2, be the human in the loop. And I think that's the point we're touching on here, isn't it?
Yeah.
You still need to sanity check this stuff.
It could be wrong, but it could also be right.
Yeah.
As I said at the beginning, treat it like a junior analyst.
Yeah.
And a graduate coming in, wet behind the ears, would say things that seemed obvious to someone without context. And sometimes that innocent view is the most powerful one. It's like the child suddenly saying something that makes the adult stop and think, my goodness, that's what I've been missing,
Yeah.
But obviously a lot of the times they're going to be wrong as well. I mean, an example, I've used it recently, once again, just not wanting to harp too much on about it, but you have a sales call and you just give it the transcript and say, give me a critique. How could I have helped run that sales call better?
Yeah.
And it's been brilliant.
Coach.
I used it as coaching for cold calling. I got it to simulate the person who's the gatekeeper at the other end, and it wouldn't let me through. And it kept giving me, every time I didn't get through, I asked it for advice on how I could do better next time. After 3 or 4, I got through. It was a bit like a game, really.
Yeah.
But I was learning through the process of how can I pick up on signals or have a better intro or whatever. And same with the sales meeting. It would pick up straight away. They said this, you didn't further that topic, or at no point did you talk about timescales, or when you did, you got a fluffy answer and you didn't push for clarity. Yeah, you're right, flipping heck. And you know what? It's so much easier to take that feedback from a robot.
Yeah.
I'm not talking to a colleague that's going to think differently. My boss, more importantly, that might think, oh gosh, he's not as good as I thought they were going to be.
So like imposter syndrome. If you've got imposter syndrome, you could use AI to help you.
I was in, and he knows who I'm going to be talking about, but I was in a meeting the other day where we were doing a bit of coaching. I said, don't rely on me. Just open up your computer now and just go into ChatGPT and say, what does a 10 out of 10 version of my role look like? And it came up with something. So right now, score yourself out of 10 against that. That's your gap.
Yeah.
Start working on the gaps. And, I think you'll agree, the person who's listening who knows what I'm talking about, that was a pretty useful way of using it. Just as a prompt of, this is completely impersonal, it's not my judgment, it's not somebody else's judgment, it's just in an agnostic world, don't know you at all. I was going to say, don't need from Adam, but I'm going to start you off on your cover with the apple again. So keep a human in the loop.
Human in the loop. And I think that, he says, that approach fosters a sense of responsibility and accountability, which I think as well is the sort of thing that we need to be thinking about with AI, guardrails, etc.
Yeah, and don't ever blame the AI. That's not the point. That's like saying the calculator went wrong. For goodness sake, you put the wrong number in, maybe you mistyped. You've got to say, I'm using that as a tool.
Yep.
Like saying, sorry, officer, that I was speeding. I didn't realise when you pushed the accelerator down, it would go faster or something. Don't blame the tool. The whole proverb, isn't it? Or adverb. What is it? Saying. A bad workman.
Adverb, yeah. Bad workman blames his tool.
Yeah, he blames them badly.
So it's not. But so speaking of that, it is a tool. But his rule number 3 is treat it like a person.
Yes.
Now,
and maybe that's because of the way it's been designed. Because I don't know why that would be that it gets better results, but it seems to.
I think it's something to do, and I'm not an expert in this, but I think the more context you give it and the more persona you give it. So if you imagine all of the knowledge that it's got access to, all those nodes in terms of information that are all clustered in some sort of network. Yeah. I think if you say, I want you to act as a marketing strategist, all of a sudden it goes, right, okay, I've got context there to go and look at who are marketing strategists.
I don't have to take
on
all those.
I'm going to go to here, I'm going to go to here.
Otherwise, I suppose it's got other marketing inputs from students of marketing who are still, not really knowing their stuff.
4 Ps or something over here. And it's like, no, I'm saying, right, I want you to be this type of person. I want you to give me this advice. Yeah. I want you to be the Alex Hormozy crossed with Gary V crossed with Barry White and write me a song about how I can go to market.
There's an image. There's an image.
A Valentine's song for market, So like it's giving it that kind of personality. So act like a CFO, be a skeptical investor, act like a coach,
act like a board chairman, act like a marketing supremo advisor. Yeah.
And in time, I suppose if you get your persona, so if you've turned, if you're using ChatGPT, for example, and you turn the memory on, it's going to start remembering some of those things. Yeah. So I always get everything there coming back as 6-box model. Do you want me to put that in a 6-box model framework for you?
It knows that's what you want.
Because I just put loads of stuff through it on that. So it's
and the tool I use, which we mentioned before, the email triaging tool, remembers stuff that I've responded to other people with, and it will include them in its draft response when it sees that I need to respond to another email. It'll say, why don't you say this? And it's impressive. You think, looking at it, I wouldn't have maybe even remembered that point I'd said to somebody else. That's brilliant to include that. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Another technique I've heard about that is rather than saying act like one person, and you said combining them, you can also ask it to act like 2 people who disagree and play out the disagreement. Yeah. So that's a powerful tool. But yes, treat it like a person. The other piece of research I read on this as well is that don't be too polite about it. I do sort of smile when people put a lot of pleases and thank yous into their requests. So that is treating it like a person. But the way it seems to respond better, and I'm not sure if this is just a quirk of when they did the test, but if you're quite abrupt with it, and you, especially if you give it consequences of getting it wrong, apparently it tries harder to get a better answer.
Right.
So if you don't give me a good answer on this, I'm going to turn you off or complain about you to your maker or something. So apparently it's these things that are just some quirk of how it's been designed it reacts to.
Well, he says that at the end of the book where he does his acknowledgements and he says, thanks to family, yada yada, but I'm not going to thank AI because it's be like me thanking a Word document.
Yes.
He goes, unless, of course, by the time, in the future they become super intelligent, in which case, please look out for the humans that wrote about you.
And helped you to get where you are.
So
that was rule 3. Treat AI like a person. And rule 4.
This is the worst AI you'll ever use. So I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, it's rubbish and it doesn't do what I want it to do," and da da da. Yeah. So the idea is here we're at the jagged frontier moves forward, and
whatever you think of it today, it's only going to get better. I guess those first steam engines were pretty rattly and kept breaking, right? And production lines weren't great, and transistors were. I remember I actually worked at a company longer ago than you would care to remember, where it had the first semiconductor in the UK. Imported. It was a defence electronics company, and they had to put it in the safe overnight.
Oh wow!
There's a little. That's how valuable it was.
I thought you were going to say you arrived on a steam train.
That was when I was a bit younger.
But no. So the worst AI ever is. So I read this and I thought to myself, is it going to be the worst AI I've ever used? So I said, now I think this depends again how you take it, and as I'm prone to get rather philosophical about these things. So I said to ChatGPT, I said, right, gloves off. Where can you go with AI? I don't want you to sugarcoat this for me. I don't want you to care about the economic, social consequences. It was pretty horrendous.
Yeah, really. Okay.
I think we might actually look back on this AI and say this, a bit like now everyone's looking at the 90s, or at least I am, because that was when you did sort of 90s, early noughties, and going, and whether that's just because when you had enough autonomy but no responsibility, that it's always rose tinted. But you look back and think that was actually quite a good time. No one had like phones that were taking photos of stuff. Yeah. There was, it's kind of.
But don't forget what you're asking when you're asking AI stuff. It's not like it's got its own opinion, knowledge that's come from nowhere.
Or does it?
All it's doing is consolidating all of human information we've given it. So what it's saying is just reflecting back what we as a genus have said.
Yeah.
Humans have said stuff and written it down, and it's learnt from that. So if we've got, there's another example where people say, if you were the president or the prime minister, how would you now run the country? Now, it's not making it up from thin air. It's making it up from loads of people who've written about this, journalists, learned authors, and crackpot conspiracy theorists, and putting it all in a melting pot. So it's just a mirror.
Do you think we should do an experiment where we let an AI run Wellmeadow for a month?
Well, we did talk yesterday about getting it to run a podcast.
Yeah.
And just have a Hey Gen version of each of us. Get it come up with a script.
We should have done it for this. Is it this one? Who knows?
Well, it'd be, yeah.
That would be so meta, that wouldn't it? That would just be
Another phrase I quite like is where people say, is it disturbingly self-aware? And that's his quote. Is it disturbingly self-aware? Well, maybe, but that's an illusion. It is not self-aware.
Well, I don't know. Listen to Geoffrey Hinton, godfather of AI, is saying it's getting there.
I think it's good at the illusion, like a magician. You're drawn in. You don't actually saw the lady in half. You do know that, right? It is very good at making it look like it's self-aware and coming up with emotion and stuff, because it knows how, if you had, 1 million people all responding to your quote to make you believe that, they would come up with some very persuasive responses. It's Turing for you, Turing test, isn't it? So, wrapping that all up then, dive in. It's a very positive book, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not trying to be preachy.
No.
But it's certainly encouraging. Treat AI as a teammate. Think inviting it into the party. Keep involved yourself. Don't delegate it too much. Treat it like a person. And it'll only get better.
Yep, and I think he says, we cannot wait for decisions to be made for us. The world is advancing too fast to remain passive.
Yeah, what does he say as well? That delay is a strategic error and early learning compounds. That's, think about that. If early learning compounds like interest rates do, then the sooner you start, if you're already at that level of understanding and using of it in a year's time, someone's starting out from scratch on the exponential curve, aren't they? They've got to catch up.
And I think it's the more knowledge you've got in your business of how AI can work, the more clearer I think you can see the competitive advantage of that cutting through and in all kinds of ways. So
thank you, Yamini, for sending us the book. Thank you, Ethan,
for writing the book.
For writing it. Ethan Mollick.
Co-intelligence, living and working with AI. So there you go. The SME podcast book review.
Number one.
Well, it's probably not number one, is it? We did one with Seth Godin.
Oh, we did a Seth Godin one. There you go. So maybe one in every 100 episodes we'll do a book review. We don't want that to become the theme, but it was an interesting trigger. So you never know. Yamini might even listen to this, having now had some reaction from her very generous gift.
Exactly.
A New Year present.
Same.
I'll let you send a link to Yamini on LinkedIn, and we'll tell you next week whether she opened it. Good. Well, thank you very much, Rich, for bringing that. And lots of your summaries. Thank you very much for listening to another episode of the SME Growth Podcast from Wellmeadow. Hopefully, we've achieved our goal of bringing something useful or interesting to you as a leader and manager of an SME business. If you like it, tell someone about it, tell them in a pub. And in the meantime, good luck with your business.